Good evening. I'd like to call the North Augusta City Council study session for Monday, July the 14th, 2025 to order. It's great to see a lot of y'all new faces here. I'm sure a lot of folks are here for one of our focus items. It doesn't really matter why you're here. We're just glad you're here. So before I turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford, for the beginning of the study session, I would ask Jim if you would meet me in front of the dais, please, sir. Jim Clifford. So, Jim doesn't know I'm going to do this. So there's an organization called ELGL, which is Engaging Local Government Leaders. Began around 2012, and they have two main missions. One is to help break down barriers, silos in public services, but also help foster folks who are wanting to get into the public service realm. And they've just been a great resource for nationally. But anyway, in recognition of Public Service Recognition Week, they are honoring 100 people who they are calling the top influencers in local government. And our own Mr. Jim Clifford has been honored and recognized as one of the top 100 influencers in local government. And our good friends at the Bevel Edge, we gave them the little write-up, and JD's got the full report, but made a real nice little frame here with frame. But I wanted to just read to you just a part of why Jim is a top influence, even with a bad leg and all. Through his commitment to service, creative problem solving, and focus on values, Jim Clifford has made a lasting impact on the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, especially during the recent challenges posed by Hurricane Helene. His leadership by example fosters a culture of dependability and resilience. Jim's ability to remain calm and decisive under pressure was never more evident than during Hurricane Helene. By leveraging his expertise in military operations, he coordinated emergency response efforts that prioritized public safety, ensured access to resources, and minimized the storm's long-term effects on the community. His hands-on approach, personally overseeing recovery efforts and engaging with the residents, demonstrated his commitment to the city's well-being. During hurricane recovery, he mobilized partnerships with local organizations, businesses, and state organizations, fostering a spirit of unity that underscored the community's collective strength. So, anyway, so on behalf of the ELGL and the City of North Augusta and our directors and City Council, we want to give you this picture for you to hang up that shows you are a top influencer. Let's give him a round of applause. Good job, sir. Good job. I'm now going to turn it over to our top influencer, our city administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'll make two comments on that before we go into our agenda review. First of all, I think my teenage children would debate anybody who would say that I'm an influencer in any kind of way. And I would also say that we have had and have an incredible team here with the directors, our superintendents, and all of our employees that really pulled together to get our city through a very tough time. And regardless of who the administrator was when Hurricane Helene hit, I think the city of North Augusta would have pulled through just fine based on the strength of the bench that you see behind me. So with that, let me go ahead and move into our agenda review for next week. So we'll be announcing our employee of the quarter, and more importantly, we're going to be celebrating Sergeant David Griffin's retirement from public safety. For those of you that know, Sergeant Griffin's been a mainstay in public safety. He's been the Station 2 sergeant, I think, since it was built. And so ultimately, he's provided a lifetime service to the city, and we'll be sorry to see him go, but we will wish him well as he heads into retirement. And as we move into new business, we have two items here under planning and development, items 6 and 7, ordinance number 2025-12 and 2025-13. And so upon further legal review and sitting down with the city attorney and our planning director, in the better safe than sorry aspect, reading the state statute, it would appear that we would be better served to put a 30-day notice out for public comment on implementing an impact fee into the city. And so what we're going to do is we're not going to present these two ordinances for the city council to consider next week. What we're going to do is advertise in the Post and Courier for a 30-day period, and then we'll have likely a 30-minute public hearing at a study session, which I believe will be September 8th, but I'll publish dates forward, and then the City Council will move forward and consider those ordinances on the following 2 City Council meetings. So even though those ordinances are in your packets, you can skip past those for this week because we won't be presenting those for you for a vote for next week. And Tommy Paradise, our planning director, either has or will reach out to Tiffany Heitzman from the Builders Association, as she's been kind of our conduit to dealing with the developers in the area to make sure that the timeline is also advertised with them as well. So everybody will have that.
Okay.
And I'll pause for any questions from council there. So with that, I'll move on to item number 8, resolution number 2025-24, authorizing professional engineering services contract for the Georgia Avenue traffic calming improvements phase 1. And for that, I'll turn it over to our assistant city administrator and influencer writer, Dr. J.D. McCauley.
Thank you, sir. Make sure you like and subscribe. So just to give you a little history lesson, you guys have approved the phase 1 concept. Remember, the traffic calming on Georgia Avenue broke into 2 phases. You've approved phase 1. You've also approved the RFQ for Kinley Horn to start the work in the planning phases for Georgia Avenue traffic calming. We had a great scoping meeting, myself with Tom Zieser, engineering department, with Kinley Horn, and the result of that is this resolution, which is the outline of the project moving forward, which would include costing, as well as the funding source, which is, no surprise, it's CPST4 for this. And the resolution will have an attachment to the details of the cost, which would include surveying, design services, public engagement, SCDOT coordination, permitting, bid phase services, construction administration, project management, et cetera, and the fees and costs associated to that. So that'll be included with the resolution that will be before you before our council meeting.
Thanks, Jay. And again, just to put that in non-PhD terms, that's everything short of construction. That's what's going to be in that contract. And so with that, we'll go ahead and turn over to our Director of Public Works, who's going to talk through resolution number 2025-25, authorizing professional engineering services contract for the Crestview Woodlawn drainage improvements. And I know a number of city council members have talked to administration and Public Works about issues on the Woodlawn Avenue regarding stormwater runoff. And so this is a positive first step, if you will, to be able to deal with some of these problems. But just like anything else, you've got to do the engineering on the front end before you get into the actual construction and fix items. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Tom Zieser, our Director of Public Works, to talk through this resolution.
So yes, although some of you have been contacted recently by residents who have been impacted by this particular drainage ditch, regrettably, this is not a new problem. This problem has been on the city's high priority project list for several decades. In fact, before I even began work here 35 years ago. So anyway, we are glad that we are finally able to advance this project towards hopefully a permanent resolution and bring relief to those residents. And so this resolution will authorize a contract with engineering firm Thomas & Hutton, who was one of the firms that was selected in an RFQ earlier this year for general stormwater services. And so we have a proposal from Thomas & Hutton to perform the design for this project for approximately $60,000. And so that resolution will authorize funding for that. And then that will be followed by a future resolution for actual construction. The design process will likely include at least one informal type public information meeting for the residents to come and view the design and get a better understanding of how the construction will impact their properties.
That's a great idea. And I'm just curious, what is the time frame if this gets approved, that they would be able to have that meeting? I mean, how long will it take them to do the design? Do you have any idea? Ballpark? I mean, 60 days or 6 months?
It will be somewhere between 60 days and 6 months. I'm sorry, I don't have the timeline of the proposal in front of me.
Okay.
It'll be before we are 100% complete with design to allow the engineer opportunity to make adjustments as may be necessary based on resident get comments.
That's a great idea. Public input. Very good, Tom. Thank you.
And then, as is our practice, we'll also provide an update next week, as I will today, about the utility billing. So that'll be part of the agenda as well. And with that, that concludes our agenda review for this evening. And we'll move over to Kayla Ferguson, who's going to go through department details.
We'll cover finance in our focus items in a little bit. If you look over on the back of your department details, you'll see your list of employment opportunities for the HR office. And then up next, we have Tom Zeeser with Engineering and Public Works.
Hello again. 3 updates tonight. One is our fencing contractor who's working on the Hurricane Helene fence damages. We'll be working over the next 2 weeks in Rushing Waters, Bergen Place West, Bentley Place, and then the wastewater lift station down in Hammond's Ferry. Also, haven't mentioned this in several weeks, but our contractor working on the SRP stadium leaks is back on site this week for the very final steps in completing that process. Again, he had to wait for a cure period for the concrete before he can apply some sealant, and so that work will be underway this week as well. And then lastly, we became aware, apparently there's some chatter on the Facebook about some potential issues down at Brick Pond. So I have a few updates for that, what staff has seen and what we are doing. I guess the notice, as I understand it, was some concern about some dead fish, and which we observed, and also the presence of an algae bloom in the constructed wetlands portion at Brick Pond. And so we are exploring both those issues, and not sure if they're related to one another, but we have reached out to South Carolina DES, just their harmful algae division, and just made them aware, and based on the information that we've provided, they don't see any need for them to take any action at this time. But tomorrow, city staff will be conducting some water sampling so we can understand what may be going on down there. And that sampling will include just some basic parameters such as dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, as well as some other testing. Nutrient level is one, to see what the potential source of that algae could be, if there's some outside source of nutrients that are feeding that algae. And then also we will be doing E. coli testing just to rule out any potential illicit wastewater discharge into that system. Another issue down there is we have waterfalls that are not just for aesthetic, but they are functional aspect of that system, and those waterfalls provide aeration, which also helps to reduce algae and other harmful things. And so the pumps for those waterfalls have been out of service for some time, and property maintenance staff has been working to get those pumps restored, and we understand that they will be replaced this week. So once we have that sampling done, some of that sampling we will know instantly tomorrow, and then other samples will have to be sent to laboratory for analysis. The E. coli sample we'll know within 24 hours. That's a concern. And then the nutrient sampling could take up to 3 weeks to get those results back. So we will report back as needed.
Is it in one area of the pond or in all of it? I mean, I've kind of been out of.
The issue that was brought up is in what we call the constructed wetlands, and that's basically the ponds that are between Center Street and Georgia Avenue. Okay, and
take a walk to the ponds on the municipal building side And that's what she's talking about, the fish dying with no oxygen possible. So,
Right, that's that's speculative. We're also exploring, well, don't know that we can show it, but those ponds are very shallow. It's been very warm. And so the water temperature is very high. And then we've also had these, they've been inundated with these afternoon thunderstorms, which introduce a large influx of very cold water in a very short period of time. And that in itself, in such a small water system as that, can shock fish, and it can also cause what they call pond turnover, just due to the inversion of the temperature in the water, and releases trapped gases, and that can lead to fish kills as well. So that obviously is completely out of our control.
but is that, Tom, is something that the city checks every so often or not?
Well,
any of this that she was talking about.
Yeah, we do. We take DO readings regularly. And so we have aerators in some of the ponds, not that particular one, and we rely on the waterfalls again. But again, the issue with the turnover, obviously that's something that is completely out of our control. That's truly the cause of this particular incident.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is everybody's going to have an opinion. And all we can do is what Tom is saying is we're going to do our homework, do a due diligence, and test it and cover our bases to know what is the issue. And once we get that, then we will address it as it is. But I will say, I hope there's not anyone doesn't think, but this city values the Brick Pond Park. That is an incredible asset for us. And I'm going to just give a plug. In a couple months, when you get to hear the podcast about Brick Pond, you're going to learn the history of the commitment the city made to preserve what was dead for decades. So a lot of chatter out there, I'm sure, but citizens need to understand, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out what the issue is, and we're going to then address it to the best of our abilities. But we do value that water, those ponds, and the last thing we want is things like this to happen. So I just want to make
that's what, as you said, the citizens, when they started building SRP or Project Jackson back then, that was a big, big concern with the citizens of North Augusta. Those brick ponds be kept up and done. So, but I mean, everybody loves walk. I don't walk down there, but a lot of people I'm afraid of the alligators.
That's a good update, Tom. Thank you.
Well, also, we appreciate public safety's assistance this afternoon. We had a call that persons were actually out there on the pavilion trying to, are actually in the process of netting alligators to do God knows what with. But so
yeah, we need to shut that down.
Requested public safety's assistance, and they responded promptly.
All right, thank you.
Up next, Tommy Paradise with Planning and Development.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Exciting things going on in the Planning Department. We have the Planning Commission meeting this Wednesday evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tommy.
Up next, James Sutton with Public Services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This coming weekend, we're going to have sanitation collection staff go out. We're in the final phase of the Hurricane Helene cleanup. They will be removing stumps along the right-of-way. Also, the South Carolina Department of Transportation, I'm not exactly sure where they're going to start, but it should be any time now. They have a list of stumps as well that they're going to be removing. So it'll take a few minutes, but that will be the final phase of our cleanup effort, at least for the stumps and the tree debris. Also this week,
James, that's me. The big stump right there on West Forest and Lake, that huge stump, I mean, it's huge. I mean, I presume since that's a state road, but it's almost like they forgot that one. I mean, it just stands out more than anything.
Councilwoman, that we are in dialogue with Representative Hickson, who's been working with SCDOT to whittle down the list. They have a number of stumps that they have yet to action that they have told us that they will. And essentially the stumps that are within the right of way that SCDOT doesn't action, we'll see if we have the assets ability to deal with that at that time. But we want to give SCDOT first right of refusal so they can go ahead and knock it out.
Okay, well, it's like I said, it just stands out on West Avenue coming down the hill.
Yeah, they know.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
Mosquito control spraying will take place this coming Wednesday morning from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. on the east side of Georgia Avenue, from the downtown area all the way out to River North subdivision. So the whole section there will be sprayed for mosquitoes.
James, I don't know if this is you or for Roy or maybe Tom, but I was noticing, it just hit me there when I was coming down Georgia Avenue past Public Safety Headquarters. That sidewalk, all that looks great. Once you get past Butler to Martintown, that sidewalk, there's some grass between the road and that sidewalk that is real high, and it looks like the grass from that on the right side is over. That just looks real bad. So I don't know if that's our folks, if that's Roy, if you can just have somebody take a look at it from basically Butler to Martintown going down George Avenue.
We'll look at it. If it's something we got to take care of, we'll take care of it. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sutton, one more question over here.
Yes.
Probably a month or so ago, we talked about installing some new water meter readers that would permit your staff to read the water meters by just driving by. Have we made any progress on the installation of those?
No, sir, we have not. That's pending another project to be complete that we're working on.
And is that something that we're going to do in-house?
It is, yes, sir.
Isn't there a savings of staff time and equipment to get those things done? Should we even consider a contractor to put any of those in?
No, sir. We want to keep the utility funds in the fund for other projects.
Okay.
As soon as we finish some financial things that's going on with the meters, billing, then we'll be able to go ahead and start installing those meters.
All right. Thank you.
Up next, Chief Johnson with Public Safety.
Good evening. As you see on your sheet, Public Safety will be participating in a splashdown on Wednesday morning at Nancy Carson Library. That way the kids have a good time to do it before school takes back in session next week. And also, you may have seen the media blitz that's been going on. Operation Southern Slowdown started this week. And North Augusta Public Safety is participating in that. So hopefully everybody, when they're out riding on the roads, will slow down and do the speed limit and drive safe.
Thank you, Chief.
Up next, Jeremy Junis with Parks and Recreation.
Evening, Council. Parks and Recreation, we're still kind of operating on all of our fundamentals. So Greenway team's working on some down trees from these pop-up storms. We had one go down on the 1.1, so we're constantly working on trying to keep those walking and areas clean. Plumbers should be here either tomorrow or the next day to finish up the water source for the dog park. So we should have water. We have water now, but we'll have a finished product with a nice finish to it done this week. American Legion is playing in their state championship softball starting here tonight. North Augusta's hosting a game in Riverview tonight. And we got about 6 days left of basketball. So we still got that going on and all that comes with it. But that's what Parks and Recreation has floating right now.
Got it.
So that's 17 and under. So it's kind of it doesn't always include the seniors, but it picks up the juniors all the way down.
But now our, 15 and under just won state championship.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was great.
Yep.
Jeremy, let me ask you. I had a citizen call me just a couple hours ago. You may already know this, but can we have check the lights on the portion of the Greenway in front of the river, in front of Hammond's Ferry, the timer? Because from what they're saying is it's staying on all day, and then they go out to walk in the evening, and it's just, I'm sure with different things. If you don't mind,
We'll definitely check that. We've had the same kind of issues. Anytime you have these little power outages with these pop-up storms, the electrical issues that you have with them, timers and all the little computer things get off their
If you can
schedule
just
sometimes.
let me
I'll go
know
check
once
that.
you look and.
Which
let me know.
section is it? Is it
It's
SRP Park down to the Beck or to?
no, it's farther. It's Pat from Beck
Back
down.
around the curve. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll check that.
All right,
Jer-
thank you, sir.
Jeremy, real quick question.
Yes, sir.
I know from my experience during Peach Jam Week, the most popular question asked is, "Where's Jeremy?"
It's still high on the
It's
still high on the volume.
sign list. Can you get,
That and where the slushies. Jeff Williamson, who is runs the Jack Lantern Jubilee food portion. He usually has some good slushy mixes going on.
can you give us just a 2-minute summary of the Peach Jam and how it's going?
Going very well. I mean, we have teams from all over the country. Paris, France has a team. Canada has a team. So, it's a representation of a lot of different areas. But things are going well, knock on wood. The storms have given us some pitfalls. We've found some leaks in the roof and some air conditioning issues. But all in all, it's going very well. People love coming to North Augusta. And we, like Mr. Clifford
Well, I
said,
had a man, we were talking, and I said, I guess you don't know North Augusta is the best city in the whole United States. Has anybody told you that? He said, well, you know what, ma'am? No, it's not. It's the best city in the world.
Yeah, one other point, Jeremy, I want to make, and I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but Peach Jam has been around for a number of years, but there normally were 4 qualifying tournaments before you got to the Peach Jam, and this year there were only 3, and they did the 4th one here, which has made an incredible week for my business, and I'm sure that the other hotels in the area are probably doing the same as well. Do you feel that's a trend?
So, I know that part of what they're always trying to do is save money. And so I would think that if it's not going to be here, it's going to be local. So, it eliminates that one extra airfare. But, and that's why I said if we can keep it in South Carolina, that would be great. But, I'm sure they're going to try to keep that 4th session local so they can fly in once, rent the van, which they're going to rent either way, and then drive here if they're not going to do it. We're not opposed to having it here, and they don't seem to be opposed to being here that long. Because like any of those setup crew, they literally are going to be here for 15 to 20 days. But they seem happy with it. That's
Of course
if we can keep them happy with some
it's-
different restaurants and some different growth and things. I think it'll continue to grow.
Peach Jam is just a huge, huge effort for our community, and the economic impact is phenomenal. And Jeremy is a real key member, key part of that process. So thanks, Jeremy, to you and the whole staff for what you do.
Thank you, man.
Last, we have Carl Waldhauer with tourism.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to provide an update on the remainder of our Explore North Augusta Summer Series that kicked off a couple weeks ago with a movie night. Had a good response despite the being the middle of summer and the heat and all that. So Saturday, July 26th, we have Sonic 3, another family movie night. We're going to partner with the Green Jackets on Sunday, August 3rd for 8:03 night with the Swinging Medallions playing the amphitheater after the ball game that afternoon. And we're going to close out our summer series with Saturday, August 30th with another family movie night featuring Minecraft.
That's good, Kayla.
All right, let's come back to me. So tonight we have 2 focus items there. The second one will be my normal update regarding utility billing. But really the main event for tonight, we have Mr. Eric Fossmeyer, who's the Chief of Staff for the South Carolina Office of Resilience. He and his team came to North Augusta several weeks ago at American Legion Post 71, gave this or a very similar presentation, and also brought a mobile intake team. And so for those of you in the audience tonight, you really have the option of either staying here in the council chambers and watching this presentation, which you're certainly free to do so. But the intake center, which is down on the first floor of this building, is currently open. So if any of our citizens that are in the room want to just skip right to go into intake, then by all means you're free to go do that. And if not, then you can hold off until this presentation is over, and you can move downstairs to deal with the staff that's down there set up to take them. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Eric Fossmeyer for tonight's presentation. Eric, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Administrator Clifford. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm Eric Fossmeyer. I'm Chief of Staff of the Office of Resilience. I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit about our programs that we have available in the realm of disaster recovery and also maybe some mitigation programs that council would be interested in. I'm not here just to talk at you. If you have any questions at any point, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer those questions. Next slide, please. At the Office of Resilience, this is our mission. We lessen the impact of disasters on our citizens across the state. We do that by planning and coordinating statewide resilience, long-term recovery, and then hazard mitigation. It really follows a four-pronged theme: anticipate, absorb, recover, and thrive. And across those big three domains that we handle, the resilience, the long-term recovery, and the mitigation programs, that's the theme. If we can better prepare for disasters, then we'll bounce back quicker after the impacts, and then we'll thrive better in the long run without having such a steep climb back out after these disasters. And it covers a lot of different areas. So the Office of Resilience was created in 2015 following the historic floods that hit the state. That 1,000-year flooding event impacted much of the Midlands to the coast, and that resulted in our office being created. And we were created to deploy the HUD Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. And we've deployed that program in 3 disasters now. We did it for the 2015 flood, we did it for Hurricane Matthew, and we did it for Hurricane Florence in 2018. And across those 3 disasters, if you go back, across those 3 disasters, we repaired or replaced 3,459 homes. Now, our services are at no charge to the clients. These are our federal tax dollars coming back to the state. And you're probably sitting there wondering, Eric, where have you been? Why is this taking so long? Well, the block grant program literally takes an act of Congress. So these HUD dollars are the last dollars into a disaster when you talk about disaster recovery or disaster relief. FEMA's here first on the ground. And we're not the emergency management division. Aiken County has a great emergency manager. State EMD does a great job. We're on the long-term recovery part and then the planning piece ahead of it. So these dollars were appropriated by Congress back at the very end of last year. And then there's a long process that we have to go through with HUD to get our grant, go through an action plan process, which they approve, and then we can start swinging hammers. In the meantime, as Administrator Clifford had mentioned, we are simultaneously deploying disaster case managers. And these are individuals who I'll talk about in just a minute, but they're downstairs on the first floor, and they'll help clients with unmet needs. And it's not just housing needs. The disaster case managers will help folks whether they had impacts that caused them to lose furniture, lose soft goods, whether they got medical problems. We will try to connect them to an appropriate resource to speed their recovery along. And already we've had thousands of people across the state, and I'll give you some numbers in just a second, that have applied to the disaster case management program. The great thing about disaster case management, if there are any citizens in here that, a number of folks have left, but if there are any citizens in here that have housing needs and they apply to the program, once we turn the switch on to actually start the repairs, then they will be moved over into the eligibility process for the HUD Housing Recovery Program. And up there is an example of the house we build. That house, as you see on the left of the slide, folks were still living in that house in those conditions, no air, no controlled environment. When we came to repair it, that is not an abandoned home. There are citizens living in that home. And that story is repeated across the state and in your community over and over again where you have major disaster impacted homes. The house on the left is what we build. The only it's not even a caveat, but the one restriction we have is we put a 3-year lien on the house just to make sure a citizen doesn't flip the house on us. We build a brand new home at no cost to the citizen. And we don't want them turning around 1 month later after they get the house and putting a for sale sign in the yard. HUD doesn't even require a lien. There are other programs that have had massive fraud in them. And we didn't want to be a burden to the citizens either by putting some 20 or 30-year lien on the house. We just didn't think that was appropriate. And this is very a citizen-centric approach to disaster recovery, trying to meet the citizens' needs. So next slide. I don't have to tell y'all are still talking about Hurricane Helene and the recovery. This was a massive storm. The thing I would emphasize out of this data that you see on this slide are two things. The number of people who applied for FEMA individual assistance. In those three prior disasters that I told you about, a little over 167,000 people applied for individual assistance combined across those three. In Helene, in the state, we had over 443,000 people apply. So it's almost 3 times as many people across the state impacted by the total impact of the prior 3 disasters. In order to get to our HUD action plan, we have to do what's called an unmet needs assessment. And we hire a company called Disaster Metrics that looks at what the unmet needs are across the state. And the number is actually pretty stunning, but the most stunning is $1.7 billion. So housing unmet needs, that's after FEMA has paid, after insurance has paid, after the National Flood Insurance Program has paid. There's still $1.7 billion of damage across the state, primarily in the counties that you see there. I won't go into the weeds about individual assistance or public assistance. I will tell you a benefit that Aiken County as a whole has out of the HUD program. And the other thing we saw is that a lot of renters were impacted. 39% of all FEMA applicants were renters. So that's a little bit different for us, and we've sort of have opened the aperture on our rental program to try and make it a little more flexible. Next slide, please. So next slide. This is high level. So I told you that the unmet housing need was over $1 billion. Now, we're not going to sneeze at $150 million. That's what was appropriated to us by HUD. We were actually expecting somewhere in the $300 to $600 million range based on the size of the disaster. But unfortunately, Congress never made a disaster appropriation in 2023. So that goes back to the California wildfires. If you remember, Lahaina, Hawaii, completely wiped off the face of the earth by those wildfires. We had coastal Gulf Coast hurricanes, no disaster appropriation for 2023. Then we get to 2024, no disaster appropriation until tremendous pressure was put on by the impacts of Hurricane Helene. And then we had 2 other major Florida disaster impacts with hurricanes in Florida. So 2024 was a really big year. So what happens is the congressional appropriation for disaster recovery covered 2 whole years. Usually they do once per year. And Congress has been a little dysfunctional in the last couple of years in trying to come together and make a disaster appropriation. Finally, they did it in December. These dollars were allocated, and what was allocated to South Carolina was $150 million. That's a real high-level breakout of how we go about it. We can use up to $7.5 million to administer the program. In the past, in the other 3 programs, we've been under that 5%, which allows for more disasters to come down to the next 2 lines. We'll have $123 million that will actually be in the housing program. We're anticipating reaching about 700 households with those dollars. And then we have just under $20 million available for mitigation programs. Disaster recovery is individuals. Mitigation is for local governments. Next slide, please. So again, I'm not going to read slides to you. What is important for members of council to know is that the blue counties were identified by HUD as the most impacted and distressed counties. So that's Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg, Lawrence, Greenwood, and Aiken. It makes a difference, and this is HUD making this determination based on what FEMA data they had available to them. We don't make that determination as the Office of Resilience. The good news for Aiken is that those 6 counties get to share in 80% of that $150 million of the HUD grant. So out of the housing piece, which is $123 million, 80% of those dollars will be spread across those 6 counties. And it's good news for the Aiken County area. It's really bad news for the rest of the state because those 6 counties by the way HUD goes about this, get the biggest benefit out of the housing program. So that's a good news for your constituents and the citizens of North Augusta. This program, we're about the only, we are really not about, we are the only HUD-funded disaster recovery program that 100% spends its housing dollars in the low to moderate income community. So that's the target environment, low to moderate income folks for the housing. And there's a prioritization scale, which in essence, if we had $1.2 billion, we would get outside of the low to moderate income community and get up into the middle income folks. But that's just not going to happen. You got that much disaster, we got this much money. And it's just the reality of what we have to work with. So the prioritization matrix is in your material. It's not as difficult as it appears to be. Really, we look at a couple elements, which I'll tell you in just a minute. So the good news is the Aiken County area gets 80% of the benefit out of this program. And it takes 6 years we have up to 6 years to complete the grant. We have finished. We're very proud of this fact, so I'm going to brag on my teammates that I work with. We're, again, one of the few programs in the country. HUD really likes us because we stay on budget and we finish our programs on time. Hurricane Katrina, that Louisiana is still deploying a HUD CDBG DR grant for Hurricane Katrina from 2005. And that's just not right. You know, citizens deserve better. 6 years is too long a period of time, but that's what it takes once you get the appropriation. We think we'll finish the program in probably 3 years, because I say only, absent another big disaster impact, we'll get to 700 houses within 3 years. We have a pretty high degree of confidence about that. So while HUD allows us 6 years to complete the grant from the time we get a grant, not from the time of the disaster, we expect to move along and get this done in 3. Next slide, please. A lot of detail here, but we have, the bottom line is we have 3 areas that we work in. The single family rehab and rehabilitation program, and that's repairing or building brand new homes. We are anticipating spending about $110 million in that program, $7.5 million in rental, and around $5 million in voluntary buyouts across the state. If folks were disaster impacted, they were flooded, and they want out, we pay fair market value for their home to allow them to go to somewhere that's safer. So we buy out the home is returned to green space permanently, and SCORE is not a property owner. This is a voluntary program. No one will be subject to an eminent domain by our program, but the property goes to the local government. And if the local government doesn't have it, doesn't want it, we've had some situations in the PD where we just give the property to the neighbor. They can put a garden on it. They can't put any impermeable surface, no driveway, no sheds, nothing like that. But the idea is let's not repeat the original mistake of building a house in a floodplain that's likely to flood. And let's not repair it and put $85,000 into a repair just to have it get damaged again in 2, 5, 12 years down the road. So the voluntary buyouts is becoming more successful, as you see what is happening across the country. And again, that's a voluntary program. We will replace a mobile home if it's on rental property. So if someone has a mobile home and they're on a rented lot, and the home is not repairable and it doesn't take much to really total out a mobile home, then we will install a new mobile home, and we go up to a double wide 4-bedroom, 2-bath unit. And those numbers there are our project caps. We could go above those in certain circumstances, but that's all in. That includes demolishing the existing structure, whether it's a MHU or whether it's a house, or preparing the lot for the new installation, whether it's a new home. And there you go. That's our working premise. There's all sorts of flexibility there, depending on what the circumstances are. But I just wanted sort of that fact sheet for you so that you understand the types of projects that we're dealing with. If a client has a mobile home and they own the land, rather than putting them back in a mobile home And when you look at total project costs for a new MHU, and it's frightening to me what folks are paying across the country for mobile homes. And it's a perfectly good housing, a piece of housing. But because of the demand and because of the disasters, costs are skyrocketing on MHU units in the disaster recovery world. And well, we'll offer them a brand new home instead of a mobile home. And so that the idea is to provide a more resilient solution and a home that will be longer lasting, and maybe even a home that will appreciate as an asset, and maybe even provide some generational wealth for that family so that they have an asset that appreciates rather than depreciates. So it's offered. We have friends in the disaster recovery world all over the country. And in Florida, we have a couple folks that left our program and are helping to run that program. They're having a hard time getting folks to go from a mobile home to a stick-built home because they've been in a mobile home all their lives. That's what they know. That's what they're happy with, and they feel like the stick-built house will be a bigger obligation for them. And that's citizens' choice, to answer your question, ma'am. So next slide, please. This is the prioritization. Basically, it's low to moderate income folks. The two main criteria for prioritization is, are they age dependent, which means under 18 years of age or over 65, or are they disabled? Those two factors, if they fall into an age dependent category or disability, then they go higher up on the prioritization matrix. And then for the low to moderate income, if they're on just Social Security or a disability stream of income, then that ends up under the HUD rules, that's a 0. So if your only source of income is Social Security and you're disabled and you're over the age of 65, that's our typical client that we serve. And across those prior 3 disasters, our composite client is an African American female over 65 years of age with one other person in the household, and either the primary applicant or the other person in the household is disabled. You look at all of our data, that's where the vast majority of the clients fall.
Sir,
yes, sir.
How do you decide the size of the house? Is there a standard size?
It's based on, we can go up to a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. They're not large. It's a little over 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet now. Actually the 4-bedroom 2 is just a little over 1,300
That's
square
the
feet.
mobile home.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
and then the stick builds?
Same thing. They're both around the same square footage. Yes, sir.
Is that based on their size of their household prior to the storm?
Household applicants, not size of the house. The applicants at the time of the disaster who are still in the house.
What if someone ages up out of the age requirement? Say they're 17 now, and they would be under 18. But before the house is built, within 3 years, they would not be in that.
No, they would be eligible based on that criteria.
At the time of the event?
Yes, sir. And total household income is taken into account. So if the 17-year-old is working and earning an income, then that counts. We have to figure that into the equation.
Are the houses prefabbed at all, or is they
No.
just?
These are not modular homes. We are talking to a modular home builder, but a modular home is just a stick-built home that's built in a factory,
right,
and brought in segments.
It can be done quickly.
It can be done quickly, yeah. And there's some value to that, but pricing has been a bit of an issue. And the problem we ran into, Councilman, is in the Hurricane Matthew disaster. We went with modular homes to try and test it out. And the biggest problem working in rural South Carolina in the PD was getting the segments to the lot, because you had, not always, but typically low-lying, wet lots, hard to get the pieces in there, and then they thought they could just get them rolled onto the foundation based with rollers that they used. That wasn't working, so then we'd have to rent a crane, and the cost goes up when you're renting a crane and not just trying to roll those pieces onto.
Would you have similar issues if you were building a stick house and using, I assume, a private contractor to build the house?
Well, it's easier with the stick-built contractor, but we don't always go with easy. We're looking for a combination of factors that will lead to speed in the recovery. So we are looking forward to getting some modular builders involved because there are some good ones in the state. And if that can help keep moving the process along. But this isn't, my operations director likes to say, this isn't, what was it, Burger King. You don't get it your way. And that has really, we have commoditized the construction of a house. And we've learned that you can't just build it back. If you had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch that was 2,200 square feet or 2,000 square feet, that's the house you get that you saw in the picture. It's a lovely house. It's going to be very resilient. It has, will have a continuous load path. So the roof will be mechanically tied down to the foundation rather than just the strapping that you have connecting roof to walls, walls to floor. We'll have what's called a fortified roof. The seams will be taped. You'll have a better nailing pattern on the shingles. So there's a number of factors that'll make it, and I'm probably way too in the weeds right now, but it'll be a more resilient house than we built in 2015. But we're not building back someone's 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. The way we get to the speed factor, although it sounds like a long time, is that we're building the same type house. We had a street in Dillon, South Carolina, where we put 5 houses on that street because it was so impacted. So there, we flip elevations, we move the doors from the left to right or the window arrangement so that it's not looking cookie cutter-ish. You know, we are sensitive to that, but there are some things you can do from a design standpoint to change it up a little bit. But you basically, you can choose your outside color and the color of the inside carpet. That's it.
You allow people to, apparently you allow them to go from a mobile home to a stick-built house. If you allow them to go the other way.
No, we're
So
not.
if they were in a home that was on a foundation, can't go back to a
No, sir. It's just not as hardy a solution.
Yeah.
And it you know, y'all lived it here through Helene. You know, you just want the most resilient house you can build for the money, so that people don't lose their lives over it. You know.
Yeah. My concern is how do you build that many houses that fast, because the need is probably significant
Yes, sir.
and of importance quickly.
It is, and that's why we preach patience and persistence. It takes time, but once we get rolling, you know, the completion, the start rate and the completion rate is pretty substantial.
I don't know how relevant my questions are, but I get a bunch of them. So if you have somebody that had a mobile home that was destroyed, would you rebuild on the same lot?
Yes, sir.
And then is tree removal part of that? Because most of the damage is trees.
If a tree removed, if trees caused the damage, yes, of course, we cut back the trees. Because we've gone into lots where the mobile home's damaged, in the PD area, mobile home's flooded, we go and look at it, there's a bunch of overhanging trees, we're going to take the trees out.
Take the trees out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And it's a case-by-case analysis. That's why the figures y'all saw that were what our project caps, there is some flexibility there. But that's the planning figure that we use. Some can come in below it, some come in above it.
Yeah, I think that's going to impact the county more than the city. We don't have mobile homes in North Augusta, or do we allow modular homes? So I think that's a good, why don't we keep it moving to what impacts us?
Yeah, sorry. So there you go. That's the prioritization, the way we prioritize applicants. Next slide. That's the matrix broken out just to show you the area median income AMI that we use. It's the county AMI, and that will determine whether where folks fall in those priorities. We will I know for sure we'll not get out of priority 2s for this disaster just based on the limited number of dollars that we have. So when folks, we try to be very frank with folks, keep them apprised of their status, of where they stand in the recovery process. And as soon as we know that we are not going to get to you, we'll let that citizen know. And then we can, you know, there's other folks that are in this realm. You know, you got Habitat for Humanity, and you have some other programs that are available. And we coordinate with the volunteer organizations.
So you go off the county area median income, not the city?
County, yes, sir. Okay. Per HUD. Okay. So we take the county AMI, and then we apply the factors that apply. And that's what the disaster case managers are doing
So
downstairs.
the first one under one person, so if a single person is in a house and they're 30% of the Aiken County area of median income, then they would get $18,550.
Yes, sir. But it's a zero if it's disability income or Social Security.
Okay.
So if go back to the citizens I gave you, and there are a couple of very simple examples coming up. But if you had a white female over 65 years of age who was only on Social Security, she would be a priority one.
So let me ask you this: what is the length of time? So we have folks who are down there right now who are. So how fast does it take you to be able to tell them, hey, you know what, we'd love to help you, but guess what? Your numbers don't fit where we are. Or, hey, you know what, we can't.
If they're going to be in a priority 5, 6, 7, or 8, then we'll tell them right away.
That's what I'm saying. They will tell you. You'll be able to tell them when they come sit down with you at that desk. They'll know that time what they're going to be.
Yes, as long as we can collect the data. Like if they're telling us there's some things that we cross check, right?
Oh yeah, they got to prove it. But I mean,
right.
If they say, hey, I made whatever, you can say, well, guess what?
We're not going to make it get it to you. We can keep it on file for a little while, but we're just not going to keep people hanging. We owe folks the truth.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to get to them, we're going to let them know we're not going to get to you. And there you go. That's the way it works. So a couple, next slide, just some very simple examples. And we run into this fairly regularly where folks will come to a public meeting and we describe the program, and they self-select out of it. But here you go, a married couple in their 50s. This is a little bit extreme. Their home was paid off. They didn't keep their insurance on the house since it was paid off, and they felt comfortable with their assets. They make $180 a year. There's no need to apply. They just would not even be eligible in the program. So that couple would need to find other resources. Next slide. So here is a priority one. 80-year-old grandmother raising a 6-year-old granddaughter in the house. They own the home. She owns the home. Social Security income only. That would be a priority one. And because of the limited, once we start taking applications with the HUD program, we haven't signed the grant agreement yet for HUD. They're still in their 45-day comment period on that action plan. But as soon as we sign the grant agreement, we'll start the application period. We'll transfer over all the applications that the disaster case managers have brought in. We're already going through the eligibility process because I'll show you in just a second. We have some state dollars that are helping out to get the program going.
So would you say are we behind? I mean, I know you came down last month, I think it was, whenever, but are we still within a good time frame?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So there's some talk about, we're way behind the 8 ball and we're going to lose money.
No, sir.
I mean, that's just not true.
Not true.
Okay.
Not at all. Y'all, the city, y'all are on target. There's nothing, no problems there. You have not lost out on a single potential dollar. So, real quick, next slide. So, we're building a very resilient house. There's nothing going to be extravagant about it. No granite countertops, no marble floors. I think that probably speaks for itself. But we do provide all the appliances. You know, there'll be an automatic dishwasher, refrigerator in the house, hookups for washer and dryer. Our disaster case managers can often find washers and dryers if folks don't have it. There you go. It's a good, sturdy, resilient house that ought to be around for a long time. Next slide. So I want to tell you briefly, because I'm standing in front of a local government, about the mitigation program. This is $19 million, and mitigation, again, is only available in those 6 most impacted and distressed counties. So that's y'all. Aiken County, Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, Lawrence, Greenwood. That's where all of these dollars will go. So if you have, listening to Public Works, if you have a mitigation project, particularly if it's shovel ready, we will open up mitigation applications in the fall. There'll be a big news blast about that, and we'll reach out to y'all individually if you'd like. And please bring those mitigation projects to us. They're typically floodwater, stormwater mitigation projects. They could be gray or green. We have a number of projects that are green impoundments, and our engineers, and we're not just a pass-through. We have actual project managers, and we're already deploying a $164 million HUD mitigation program dating back to the 25th to the series of disasters that we've had, and that's mostly in those impacted counties in the PD to the coast. And then we have $100 million in ARPA funding that came to the state, that were out of the ARPA funding that came to the state, that was allocated to us for stormwater projects, which we're working across the state. And we actually have engineers and project managers, we hire out for the construction piece, hire out for the design piece, but we actually manage the projects. If it's a higher capacity local government, then they can apply to be a subrecipient, and they can manage the project as long as they meet our criteria. So there's a real opportunity here for mitigation projects if y'all have any interest in that. Okay. And we're happy to talk with you in further detail ahead of time about what may or may not work as far as that goes. And we do have some money in the mitigation piece for buyouts. Now that's different from the disaster recovery one I was telling you about. And this is where it starts to get confusing. There's a lot of nuance to this program. On the disaster recovery side, that $123 million that we have available for housing, the buyouts over there are by individuals who come in and say, I want to be bought out. In the mitigation program, we look to the local governments to say, we have a distressed community that has flooded repeatedly. We'd like to offer buyouts if folks want to be bought out. And then I've got two great examples. In Sherrall, we had repeated flooding around a park, 9 homes. The Sherrall applied to see if any of those 9 residents would like to be bought out. Every one of them did, including 2 additional lots. We bought all those out, and the beauty of that project is that it was also downstream from an EPA Superfund site, and those folks are safely out of the way. Down in Horry County, down in the Augusta area, there's a 61 home buyout that we're doing in an area that shows up on the news all the time now. It's flooded 11 times since 2015, just because of the volume of water. I'm sure you see it on your planning side. You keep adding communities on top of communities in areas where stormwater is flowing, and just the volume of runoff that you have can cause some pretty substantial problems downstream. And that's what we look out for from the mitigation standpoint. Are we slowing up the water? Are we speeding it up? What's the solution? And make sure the solution doesn't impact any downstream neighbors. Because as y'all well know, water does not care about municipal boundaries or county boundaries. And we look at it from a watershed planning basis. So I'll stop talking about it because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But if you want to hear more about the mitigation program, please feel free to reach out, and I'll connect y'all with our mitigation director.
Let me ask you, I'm just get clarification. I'm jumping around on you. The 6 counties, which we're one of those most impacted distress, 80% of the funds to be used in those 6 counties. How is that 8% divided among those counties? Did everybody get the same percentage, or is it based off of?
No, it's going to be based off of applications and what it looks like. It's not going to be strictly pro rata, Mr. Mayor, but we will look at to try and make sure those dollars are distributed fairly. There's another benefit in Aiken County. Google donated $1 million to our program to be used in the Aiken County area. So those are additional dollars that'll come into the communities here on the housing recovery side.
Is the 6 years just because I'm assuming you don't have your own builders, right? You have to go out and bid for these folks to do this work?
We do. We do hire the builders. Okay. So we are, without getting too far into the weeds, we are, as my operations director also likes to say, we're control enthusiasts. And if we can control the process from start to finish, unlike in other states that have just bogged down, North Carolina overspent their Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Florence grants by $200 million. They have people in motels right now from 2016 waiting for their houses to be repaired. And they just moved people out and warehoused them in rental homes. It was a very bad project design. And they also allowed the citizen to decide what their new house would look like. And that's why I talk about the commoditization of the construction process. So we're not perfect. We've gotten pretty good at this. HUD holds our program out as a leading program across the country. I can't tell you how many states, you'd be surprised, Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, the Lahina, Hawaii folks came and trained with us for a few weeks. So that money is going to get spread out. It's basically pro rata, but it's not going to be perfectly pro rata. So 80% of the housing recovery money that I was telling you about will get distributed among those 6 counties. 100% of the mitigation dollars is spent in those 6 counties.
Let me ask you, will you have the ability to update us on the number of local citizens that are able to qualify or
Yes, sir.
eligible?
Once we get going, we put up on a weekly basis our construction updates. It'll tell you how many applications are received, how many are approved, how many are in construction, how many key turnovers.
When will that begin?
That'll begin once we start construction. So that'll probably be September by the time we get our implementation vendor hired. We got to get the grant approved by HUD, signed, procure the implementation vendor that'll bring the contractors with them. And we've had great success with that program design. So, okay. But sure, you can get on our email list and we can send that out to you daily if you'd like, because we track it daily. Hope I haven't gone too much into the weeds for y'all.
No, this was very good, Eric.
Trying to.
Do I have any other questions for this young man?
Just the next page.
Oh, you're still going. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I just want to finish it out. The next page is the recovery timeline. Next slide, please. Won't read that to you, but there it is. That tells you a little bit about how that begins construction is going to be way accelerated based on where we are right now. So that needs some updating because I think we'll be in construction by late fall, not January 2026.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt as well, but after this presentation tonight, this week, we'll have this presentation posted on our city's Hurricane Helene website, where we've got all the products on there. So this will be somewhere that you can also direct your constituents to, and I'll make sure you all have a link of that.
And all of our contact information is on the last slide. They can either contact us electronically or by phone, and they'll have it.
So no one's applied right now.
The people have applied for disaster case management. The actual housing recovery piece will open up after we get our HUD grant approved and signed.
Okay.
So that's going to happen sometime early fall. So next slide. So this is a state-funded program that we have out of state dollars. Everything I just told you is that HUD Community Development Block Grant. This is going to be similar, and we are moving faster, and we're about to start some construction on, I think we have 2 or 3 eligible destroyed homes already that have come through the disaster case management process. And we'll start construction on those homes probably no later than August in building new houses. That pot of money across all of those counties will be up to $38 million. We're starting with $20 million to see how it goes, but we think we're going to spend every penny of that $38 million on housing. And that's a parallel process, but it also comes through the disaster case managers. And the key is to apply through disaster case management. They can get you routed to an appropriate resource, whether it's us or whether it's a volunteer organization or a nonprofit. Any questions about the rapid rebuild using state dollars? The final slide, the final slide on construction, that just shows you everywhere that we're working and the type of program that will be deployed in those counties. And then I've already talked at length about it. Next 2 slides. This is the disaster case management program. Come forward 2 slides, please. I've already explained this program to you. There will be an office in Aiken County. We're working on the lease right now, and that office is going to be over on, where are we? Trail Ridge Road. It's an office building over there, 900 Trail Ridge Road, will be the local disaster case management office. So because this is the most impacted and distressed county, y'all will have an actual office here in the county. And that's where folks can go to apply to the disaster case.
That's where people need to go.
Yes, sir.
Very
But
good. And we'll get that out there too.
Yes, sir. But we also work out from there, and we'll do mobile intakes. We'll go to a library. We'll go to a community center. We'll go to churches, depending on what the need is. We will go, if citizens can't get out of their homes, let us know. We'll send a team of 2 people to go complete the application at their home. Again, we're very citizen oriented in that program. So I've told you about that program throughout the presentation, and I won't go into any further detail about it. But the next slide shows you how we have regionalized this, and the Region 6 down the western edge of the state down to the low country will be centered in Aiken, and you'll have an office here. And with that, last slide is our points of contact. That what we ask is to get the word out and have people apply, and they won't know if they're eligible until they apply. And in other parts of the state where we've done 3 disasters, they know the Office of Resilience. And I get it. There's a lack of trust of government by citizens in many instances. There's a lack of trust in FEMA solutions in many instances. And I'm not here to badmouth FEMA. They do bring resources to the battlefield. But once we start building homes, we'll prove up to folks that we're actually delivering what we're talking about. And it happened to us in Williamsburg County. As soon as we installed the first mobile home, the number of people coming in to make applications was just skyrocketed because they saw it's not lip service. This is actually something that we deliver and deploy. Happy to answer any questions.
It's where a citizen that we could pass on to citizens.
Yes, ma'am. Please do.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Please do, because that's what we need. The whole piece is about communication. What are their needs? Can we solve those needs? Are they potentially eligible? If they're potentially eligible, we'll work on it. And then one last thing is we aren't afraid of heirs property problems. We see that in many other parts of the state where heirs property is an issue. Something's been passed down from generation to generation. And probably the most complicated one we solved, the last written deed was in the 1780s. I'm sorry, not 1780s, 1880s, handwritten in Old English. And my goodness, we had over 100-something heirs that potentially had a claim on that property because it just got handed down from generation to generation. But we solved it, and we were able to serve that citizen. So heirs property is not, in some other states, it's a disqualifying factor for many folks because the deploying agency finds it too complicated, but we're willing to try and solve those problems. We may not solve it, but we're willing to try. Very good. Thank you for tolerating.
Good job, Eric. Thank y'all for coming down here, bringing your folks down there. That's a great resource. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Very good.
I'll stay around to the end of the meeting if anyone has any questions.
Briefly, is this just for like a totally destroyed home, or does this apply to outbuildings or fencing or driveways?
Not homes, not driveways, not fencing. It's to the residents. So, but if the house needs repairs, this isn't just totally destroyed. So if the house needs repairs, let's say a tree hit a corner of the house, and one room is the problem, and they haven't been able to repair it, come on in. Because if you meet the eligibility criteria, we're looking at the personal situation for priority. The AMI, income, and whether they're a priority 1 or 2. The destroyed, non-destroyed doesn't matter in the HUD program because we'll do both. We'll do both types of work.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else?
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we'll go ahead and go right into our utility billing update. Next slide, please. No changes on the slide. So just to highlight, we still have our customer service line that's in service. The 5717 number is still being used by finance. We were able to get out the June 25th bills out last week. Those will have a due date of August 1st. And then we have our July 10th bills should be mailed out this Friday, July 18th. So as you can see, we're starting to get back onto a glide path of getting the bills out on the normal time. And so we anticipate by August that we're back on the two-month cycle, the 10th and 25th of the month billing. There are still some issues we're going to have to work through as far as other items, but I think we'll be back on at least our regular cycles, which is a great step for us, and we're happy to be back in that place coming up next month, and I'll have additional updates for you on the next slide. I guess that one was hidden, but there's I had a calendar slide. I'll provide that for the council later. It just shows when things are due and when things are posted. But again, the bottom line is by August, we anticipate we're going to be back to our normal operations. We are not prepared to have a discussion yet about late fees or turn-offs or any of those kinds of things. I really want to make sure we get back into a normal cycle, let that burn in for 30 days, and then we'll have an open discussion about where we're going to go from there. Close out those slides, please. And I just have one additional update before I turn it back over to Mayor and Council here at the study session, which is we'll take any good news we can get, and we got a little bit of good news from our insurance adjusters and also from a professional engineering firm that came in and looked at the pavilion at Beck Park. And so ultimately, we got the green light that they went and looked at all the issues that the original set of engineers have done an assessment about, and so that they saw why they had requested additional engineering look, but at the end of the day, that facility is not at risk of falling down or causing injury to our citizens, and so we're planning on removing the tape and the restrictions from the Beck Park Pavilion this week.
Good, that's good. Yeah. I just want to finish up on the resilient thing. So Jim went to the presentation a couple months ago. Was it a month and a half ago? Anyway, so he came back and he and I talked, and and he agreed that it was important that we felt it was important that y'all heard what he saw. Because I had not heard it either. I had read a lot of information about it. So Jim worked with Eric to have the group that's down there. Okay. I think from what I've heard tonight, I still don't think we're going to have a huge number of citizens that qualify, in my opinion. I'm not saying it won't be some, and I hope there are. But I think if Jim, if we get the information out on the hurricane site, on our website, we post something on social media, y'all all have the information now. So if you could have, the reality is that's what Eric and his team do. We're really not, our role now is we know the information, we have the contact. When people ask, we need to give them that information. And then because Eric's team will be able to track it, we'll know down the road, hey, how many people will do it. I don't see us as a council doing more than what we've done tonight, because we got the information, we can put it out there for our citizens, and then we got to get them to Eric and his team. We're all on the same page with that? Okay, good. Okay. All right. Yeah, last thing I was going to say was, again, I wanted to highlight, because people don't realize what our folks are doing. We had Luke Josie and Daniel Snoggins started as new public safety officers on July the 2nd. So 2 new PSOs, that's great news. PSO Boozer completed technical rescue class through the South Carolina Fire Academy in Greenwood. PSO Morehouse assisted Meriwether Fire Department locating a brush fire with a drone on Wednesday. We got people, yard waste collection routes will have still have some large debris piles. Thursday collection route on the north side of I-20 was completed without delays. James folks are doing incredible work, continue to work the weekends, get everything up to date. And we got our budgeted yard waste collection truck came in. So we got another truck. So I think that's very positive. So anyway, I think our directors and their staff are working really hard. We're very fortunate for that. So the last thing I will say, I was not able to respond to this, but I do want, as far as a city, I do want to say on behalf of the city of North Augusta how we want to be lifting up Lynn Thompson's family with her passing. Lynn literally was the Living History Park. Her husband Jerry, just amazing, their vision. And Lynn did more, she and Jerry did more to educate our citizens about our Living History Park. It's an asset, it's in our downtown. Very few communities have what we have in their downtown area. So it's really fantastic. So we want to be continuing to lift up that family at this time, and just very thankful for what Lynn and Jerry have done all these years. They've made the Living History Park what it is, which is a huge asset. So we have City Council, we do lift our prayers up for that family during this time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor, I know you were there on 4th of July to read your proclamation again. I haven't been there. What shape is the Living History Park in, and what are our plans to assist in getting that facility back in?
I will say this, and JD, you want to jump in. There's a lot of fluid situation. They have some buildings, some roofs that are in debris, or some issues. They are going to be meeting as far as the Old Town Board to kind of figure out what it looks like on their end. And then JD is already, I think Brian and Cheryl Winzik are very involved in that, which I hope they will be involved because we know we can work with them. And so it's too early on, but yes, we will be working with that organization to, once they kind of get their ducks in a row, come to us, we'll be able to figure out, because there's a lot of things we need to do as far as updating. Quite frankly, the lease and all that information is really outdated. So this kind of gives us a fresh start to decide where do we want it to be and what's our role going forward. So I expect that to be happening in the next few months. Is that?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that Jason Sykes, Rick Meyer are working very closely with FEMA and the Winziks and the board there. So that's an active process and it's ongoing. Have to follow procurement protocols because it is part of our city process. So it's a little bit delayed, but we're on track.
I know they rely on volunteers quite a bit. Is there a volunteer effort to do anything there, or do volunteer groups just need to stay away while FEMA's other groups are involved?
That's kind of driven by the Old Town group.
We already had an issue with some volunteers down there, so I think we kind of
that's driven by Old Town.
Okay.
Yes.
But if somebody's interested in volunteering, they can contact Old Town.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. All right, that's all I got. Anybody else to go to the order? Y'all good? Okay. Thank you. We stand adjourned. Thanks for being here.